Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I procrastinated in making a video for my November wrap up because of the simple fact I read I think maybe 2 books in that month and it took me so long to read them. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to wait until it's time to do my December wrap up so I can combine them both and the number doesn't seem as pathetic. So this is my November and December wrap up video. The first book that I read in the month of November was The Outsiders, about a boy named Ponyboy Curtis who is a greaser, and his life is turned upside down when his friend Johnny, a fellow greaser, kills a Soc. And it basically goes over the 2 weeks, basically the beginning of that event and what ended up happening afterwards, and he begins kind of questioning what's right, what's wrong, and just really a lot of stuff happens in the book, and it is the most amazing book. I love it so much. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. What I loved about it was just the fact that it was like you weren't really ever bored with it. You were always just kind of like, wow, stuff is happening. This is an amazing book. And what's really cool is that the author, I believe she wrote this like in high school, which is pretty amazing. And I absolutely adore this book and I highly recommend it to you all. So the next book that I read was Red Riding Hood. This is about a girl named Valerie whose village has been terrorized by a werewolf since long before she was born. But they've kept peace with it by sacrificing an animal to it, like one of their best animals, each full moon to basically keep it at bay. But one full moon rather than it was a unique full moon. It was a blood moon. Basically, this werewolf was like, yo, I'm done with this, and goes off and he kills Valerie's older sister. She's heartbroken and the whole town goes crazy. They decide that it is time to just take down the werewolf when the local priest, I think, basically calls in a man to come and kill the werewolf, and which he informs them all that basically the werewolf is going to be terrorizing them for the next few nights because it is the blood moon, which means that instead of a werewolf bite killing you, it'll turn you into a werewolf. So everybody is highly suspicious of each other and is on a hunt to destroy this creature that has destroyed their lives. So, to be clear, this book wasn't bad. It was pretty good. It was pretty good up until the ending. It was very unsatisfying and very annoying. I, before reading this book, had seen the movie, which I know is really bad, and it's just something that most book readers try not to do because they're like, oh my gosh, the book and the movie, 2 separate things, yada yada. The movie and the book were pretty similar for the most part, but like the endings were so different. The movie ending was more satisfying than the book ending, and what was even more agitating about the book ending was that afterwards it's like, is this the end of Valerie's story? Go to this website. I'm not going to a website to figure out like how else this like continues. Like, this ending was ignorant. It should have been better. The movie ending was 10 times better, and this book ending is just kind of like, huh. And maybe if I went to the website, it would tell me like basically the same thing on how the movie ended. Okay, but I wasn't going to do that. If you wanted to put the ending in there, you need to put it in there without creating some website that for people to go to figure it out. And I'm still very annoyed, and I might go look it up when I'm done making this video, just out of curiosity. But I'm very annoyed. This should not have been a thing. Huh. I'm annoyed. I'm so annoyed. Anyway, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars because for the most part it was interesting, but it was just the ending that really sucked. Okay. The next book that I read was the first book I believe that I read in December, which is Crazy Rich Asians. The story is about a girl named Rachel Chu who agrees to go to Singapore with her boyfriend to basically go to his friend's wedding and spend the rest of the summer with him and his family. She gets there and finds out he left out some key information. He is crazy rich, like crazy rich, and everybody wants to date Nick, which is her boyfriend's name, Nick. Young, Yeah, Young. Okay, I had issues remembering his name for a second. It's Nick Young. And I keep stuttering and I can't talk and love life. Anyway, so this book was pretty good. I highly enjoyed it. It's just there were certain things about it that I did not enjoy. Certain things about me that you guys should know. I do not like it when it's incredibly, like, when, like, over sexual comments are kind of made in books. And while this wasn't too overly sexual, it was just enough to leave me annoyed. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to hear about what's going on at this bachelor party. Like, I don't want to hear that. It was just highly annoying. And I cringe when I think about it. But for the most part, the book was incredibly good. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. But I don't see myself completing the book series. I'll probably just watch the movies, which I know is terrible. But my review video for the book and the movie that is coming up very soon will explain more into that. Anyway, the next book that I read was a reread, which was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone, depending on whichever title you go with. It is about basically Harry Potter's first year at school and basically finding out that he is kind of a legend and a hero because he destroyed Voldemort. Right now, a wizard somewhere just gasped, going, "How dare you just use his name? It is he who must not be named." Fear of the name only increases the fear of the thing itself. Hopefully I got that quote correct. So I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars because, you know, it's a classic. It's great. It is an interesting story. I love it so much. And even though I read it before, still enjoyed it. Still love it. It's great. Anyway, so the next book that I read was One of Us is Lying. Basically, it's pretty simple. 5 students go into detention, but only 4 come out. Simon was responsible for Bayview High's most notorious gossiping app. He posted stuff on there that was always true. It was always true. And it destroyed so many countless lives that now he's dead. He's been murdered. And the students in detention are all suspects. Why? Because he had stories that he was about to publish that was going to bring each and every one of them down and change their lives. So the question is, who did it? The story itself was pretty good. There were times where it was kind of hard to read, but just because, you know, it didn't pique my interest at that moment, it kind of, you know, was annoying. But, well, not really annoying, but just like, I wished it moved faster, but at the same time, I am so proud of the pace it was at because it was so much better than that of the kidnapping of Christina Lattimore, in which the ending was rushed. They came to these conclusions freakishly fast. No, it wasn't like that in this. The stories had a build-up. You found out the secrets, you understood what was going on, you understood what's going on in the kids' lives that were in detention, and you discover stuff that is shocking, disturbing, and you're like, holy crap, did not see that coming. It was amazing, and I highly enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and this was one of the last books that I read before 2019 because I literally read it on the 31st. Well, I started on the 30th, finished it on the 31st. Yeah. Anyway, so the next book that I read was Little Women. That's right, guys. I finally read it. I'm so proud. Anyway, it basically is just about the 4 March sisters, or Marsh. I'm not sure how to pronounce it because I've heard it pronounced different ways and I'm very confused on it. But anyway, it's about the sisters and how they go from being kids to pretty much Little Women. The story was pretty good. The ending, I felt, was just kind of like, it was different than what I expected it to be, and part of me wonders if I got some weird edition of the book. I know that sounds really weird, but you guys know, like, I believe that there are, like, books out there that kind of, like, cut off the endings and, like, kind of shorten it down for kids, and I'm kind of like, is this what this book is? And I just didn't know it, because it doesn't look like it, and, you know, I'm like, would it change up the ending? Would it cut out some of the ending? Like, I'm kind of concerned, because it was just so different from what I anticipated it to be, especially since I've seen a movie adaptation of it and a TV show adaptation in which the endings were both pretty different from that of the book. And, like, I'm still confused as to why that was, unless, you know, in Little Men, they explained the stuff that you kind of missed out in, like, in the in-between time between the ending of Little Women and the beginning of Little Men, or if Little Men picked up where Little Women left off and kind of went over the course of their lives. I'm not quite sure. I'm still kind of trying to figure that out, but I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a pretty interesting story. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And then the last book that I read was Angus Thongs and Full Frontal Snogging. So here's a little story time for you guys. The movie, okay, which has a different title, it was Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging. I don't know why they changed that, but maybe because it didn't sound as bad as Full Frontal Snogging. I don't know. Anyway, so I watched it when I was like really little. I had never heard of these books because I'm here in America, sheltered homeschooler, you know, I don't know things, and I was like 8 maybe when it came out, 10, you know, and I get that was probably around the time where most girls were discovering these books, but yet I understand I didn't leave my house. I was like at home all the time, like not really seeing this stuff, and if my mom saw a book titled Angus Thongs and Full Frontal Snogging, she would not have let me read it. Like, there was no way. Okay, it took everything I had to get her to let me read Twilight at the age of 12. Like, it took everything. And to read Harry Potter at the same age. Like, we had to like beg and plead. Like, it took everything. But so I would secretly watch that movie because it came on Nick at Night, and I like had like so many like questions about, well, I had a specific question about the movie, and like I asked my aunt, she kind of looked at me like, why are you asking me this question? Like, where did you hear that? Like, what are you watching? And I had like a history when I was at that age to like secretly watch stuff I intentionally knew I wasn't allowed to watch, and a lot of it was stuff that was on like Nick at Night typically, or along those lines. So I watched that movie, and I don't know if it was like Nick at Night or like, I feel like it would have been Nick at Night because it was kind of late in the evening, and I felt like that was the time where Nickelodeon switched to Nick at Night. I don't know, but anyway, I watched it, and it like was permanently engraved in my memory when I was a kid. And then one day when I got older, I was like, hey, I'm gonna watch this again, and I did, and I understood so much more than when I was little, and I was like, okay, that makes sense now, that makes sense, okay. And then I got my cousin to watch it with me, and she and I both adored it. And then for Christmas they bought me the book, and so I was pretty excited, and I laughed my head off because I didn't know I was, like, obviously I didn't know I was getting it, but I didn't think like anywhere like that was a possibility of them getting me, and I find it hilarious. So I read it, and I really enjoyed it. It's pretty much just about a girl named Georgia Nicholson and basically her life, and it's told like basically she's writing in her diary, and it's pretty entertaining. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, a lot of it's rushed. It's just a long rushed novel, and you're kind of sitting there like, there was no build up to this just kind of happened at random. But at the same time, if I'm writing something in my diary, I'm not gonna sit there and go, it was then the leaves like fell down, and it was as the leaves fell down that I pondered life and stuff, and this guy walked by, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's beautiful, and he looked me in the eyes, and we just kind of stared at each other for a long moment, and just like slowly kind of like drag on and like go on and on. No, it just kind of goes straight to the point. I looked at this guy, he was hot, boom, I was like, yo, he's a sex god. Like like that was it. And it was very entertaining, and this book was the reason I reached my Goodreads goal at midnight, because you can just flip through it and it didn't take you that long. Like, it took me about maybe like an hour and a half to read, and probably for my mom it would have taken like 30 minutes. Like, my mom's like a pretty fast reader, like she's got skills for days, and I'm over here like, come on, I can't stop reading now, I gotta get to this page. And anyway, so I really enjoyed it, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I do highly recommend it, but just kind of keep in mind, like, it's written like a diary, so there's gonna be no build up to it. It's just gonna kind of go boom, boom, this, and this, and this happened. It was great. It was great though. Anyway, so that was my wrap up for the months of November and December. If you liked this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I will be posting a couple more videos here soon. Follow me on all my social media if you haven't already. I'll be linking it all down below. And guys, thank you for watching. Oh, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.